It's that time of the month again. It's FTP test time. This is the Syco-list. Let's get on with it. So the FTP test then. I follow a structured training package with my coach from Crown Coaching and have 4-week blocks in my training cycle. Those 4-week blocks, I normally test at the end of them, and I use the FTP Ramp test to do that. Some people say to me, why do you use a ramp test and not a 20-minute test? Why not do an hour test? There's so many different varieties of FTP tests out there, but ever since I've been with Crown Coaching, I've always used the FTP Ramp test. It's something that I've used on Zwift for quite a while now, and I continue to use it. The reason for that mainly is because since I was coached from 2020, I've always used the ramp test. It's always been an accurate way of me consistently doing the same test in the same training environment and obviously getting the same or similar results out of that test. So this one then, 4-week block is finished. I have been a little bit off plan over the last few weeks as I've done Tour Britannia, Tour Series, and I've done the Tugaz Tour Series as well. But having done those Tour Series, hopefully they've made me slightly stronger. We'll find out now as we enter the FTP test. Let's dive into it. So here we go, this is my functional threshold power test for December. Obviously this is a test to determine how many watts on average I can hold for an hour. I'm doing this again via the ramp test on Zwift. So I've started off with a 5-minute free ride just to get warmed up and ready, but I did do a warm-up prior to starting this session, and then it's into 1-minute intervals, starting off at 100 watts and building up until you can go no further. So the test is designed obviously to give you a FTP at the end of it, which is a figure that you can use to set your training zones, which is why I use it with my coach, is to make sure that I'm training in the right zones when I'm being set my sessions by my coach. Obviously it's not a number that I use for bragging rights or anything like that at all. It's purely a test that I can do monthly or 4-weekly to test if I've improved or not improved, and it just gives me a chance to reset my training figures and see how I'm progressing. That's the reason why I use the FTP Ramp test on Zwift and not other tests. This is just an easy to do test. I say it's easy to do, it's quite painful when you get in the hurt locker towards the end, but the idea of this is it's just a good metric for me to test and get a figure at the end of it to set up my training zones. So as you can see, we're moving through here now. The minutes are passing by, 20 watts per minute increase at every stage. Trying to keep my cadence high, heart rate is looking pretty good, but I'm not sure in this video if I'm going to have issues with my heart rate monitor, as I have done recently. But as you can see, just trying to keep the cadence high. For anyone looking to get into racing on Zwift or just looking at their training and want some form of way of sort of checking their fitness to see if they're making progress, then I do recommend the FTP Ramp test. There's various versions of it available on Zwift. But it's good to do at the start of any training block that you do, whether it's a package that you've signed up to on Zwift or you've started to get into Zwift riding and you want to sort of test where you are. It's ideal for that. Obviously it gives you a figure to start with and you can see progression as you retest monthly, fortnightly, however you want to do your testing. But it's just a good test to see how you're progressing. Obviously my training environment stays the same. I'm doing the test on the Wahoo Kicker bike, in the Pain Cave on the Omni rocker plate. Training settings are all set the same as normal, and I get on it and do it. I always tend to do it on the same route as well, so I'm on the Fuego Flats, the Desert Flat course, just because it gives me an idea of distance and time as well, just to cross-reference with my other tests that I've done. So as you can see, we're getting into the 260 watts now and we're moving through. Everything seems to be going well at the moment. So a lot of people say, why don't I do a 60-minute test or a 20-minute FTP test? There are things that I've done previously, and with my coach I've done them. I do 1 minute power testing, 5 minute power testing, 20-minute power testing as well. But this is the benchmark that I use to set my training zones, the FTP Ramp test. I test the other powers throughout my training program at certain times set by my coach. But at the moment, FTP test is to set where we are going through sort of December into January. Also, when I race on Zwift, obviously it records my 20-minute power, my 5-minute power in races and things that I do on Zwift as well. So I have all that data available to me as well on Zwift Power. But these are purely for my coach to review and look at the data when it goes on to Training Peaks for him to review my workout in this FTP test. So as you can see here, coming into the 340 watts per minute now. Cadence is still pretty high. I've tried to keep my cadence high on this test because as soon as I let my cadence start to drop, I just noticed that I start sort of trying to work harder in my legs and not using my cadence to my advantage. So that's something I tried to work on this test. I was keen to get through the 420 watts as that's where I got to previously, and trying to sort of push through and keep myself in that hurt locker. I have just come off the back of doing 2 different tour series. One was the Tour Britannia, which was consecutive days of racing. I think it was 8 in total. And then I've done the 2 Gas Tour, which was 8 stages over 9 days as well. So throughout those races, I've managed to hold my power figures pretty well. And I've sort of been, for an hour, I've been averaging just under 300 watts, which is sort of, in comparison, similar to what I do on a ramp test, really, because the figure I get at the end of this, you sort of have a 15-20 watt sort of leeway either side. So if you're not able to do 85% of your FTP for an hour, then your FTP test is probably wrong. But as you can see here, pushing into the 420 now, the face is saying it all in the bottom of the screen. I'm really in the hurt locker, trying to push through, but the legs have gone, there's nothing left, and I've come out with an FTP of 312. So there you have it then, FTP test done for December. Quite happy with the results. Legs just got full of lactate acid in the end and I just couldn't put out any more watts. When I come back next time to do the FTP test, I'm going to smash that 420 watts for the minute and hopefully push on into that 440. Hope you've liked this video. If you have, then please click that like button, click the subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one.